there, listeners. Are you feeling the weight of the world? Well, you're not alone. The U.S. Surgeon General says nearly 50% of parents are overwhelmed by stress. And guess what? It's affecting us all. Just last year, we heard about an epidemic of loneliness hitting half our population, especially young adults. But there's hope. I'm Scarlett Lewis, founder of the Choose Love movement. We're dedicated to your safety, health, and well-being with proactive mental health strategies. Imagine a life where stress and loneliness are replaced by joy and connection. We've already reached millions with essential life skills to prevent violence, substance abuse, and mental illness. Want to join this life-changing movement? It's easy. Visit chooselovemovement.org today. Become a member, spread the word, and access our free resources. Together, we can create a loving, supportive community. Remember, all the nurturing, healing love you give comes back to you tenfold. Thank you for choosing love.
I choose love. I choose love.
Hey everyone, my name is Scarlett Lewis. I'm the founder of the Choose Love movement, and welcome to the Choose Love podcast. Today, I'm honored to speak with Randy Brown, a longtime advocate, researcher, and the author of The Inside Story of Columbine: Lies, Cover-Ups, Ballistics, Lessons. Randy's connection to the Columbine tragedy is deeply personal and unique. His family reported Eric Harris to authorities, I think, years before April 20th, 1999. And his sons were at Columbine on the day of the shooting, narrowly escaping harm. His family has lived with and investigated the aftermath of that event for more than 2 decades. In his book, Randy challenges widely held assumptions about what happened at Columbine, explores the systematic failures and cover-ups, and offers hard-earned lessons about violence prevention and the culture in schools and communities. His work is driven by a commitment to uncover truth, honor the victims, support survivors, and help us all understand what we can do to prevent tragedies like this in the future. Randy, thank you so much for joining us.
That's a wonderful introduction. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, it's an honor. And your book was incredibly eye-opening. I have it for those who are just listening in front of me, and it's long. It's got lots of research in it, and you know, I think that it really sparked my attention because some of what you brought up in here, I also experienced at Sandy Hook. So we have a lot to talk about now. And the reason that we're having this conversation is simply in our mutual search for a solution to keep our kids safe. I've dedicated my life to it, Randy. As you know, we've spoken previously. For the last 13 years, I've worked tirelessly 7 days a week. And I haven't met many people who are so passionate about this, and you are one of them. I mean, in this search, we are kindred spirits, and I so appreciate you for all the work that you've done. And I just ask that our audience listen with open hearts and open minds to what you hear. It's going to challenge your beliefs. It might even rock you to the core. And I think that's okay. I really appreciate curiosity. Curiosity is the sign of intelligence.
Yes.
It's really important that we ask questions and that we challenge narratives in our search for the truth. I did that after Sandy Hook, and Randy, you've been doing that for 2 decades now. And I am so excited for you to share with our audience things that you've learned and uncovered in your search to find the truth. But you have experience in this. It's lived experience. This is not theory. This is your life. You lived it, and you're willing to come on to the Choose Love podcast and share with us. So I'm really excited.
Well, I apologize for anything I say that's sad or upsetting. That photo of your son on your site is with your holding him is beautiful. Thank you. And I have to admit that your school shooting happened because of Columbine. People took that as a meme and they adopted it and they copied it. And um, that's been perpetuated by the lies of Littleton, the sheriff's department in Jefferson County, the Jefferson County administrators, the school administrators, where they lied about what was happening and covered it up and are still covering it up. Um, and we found all these things out through the research we did when the shooting happened, and they lied about it then. They held secret meetings to keep things away from the parents and the public, and that was proven by the attorney general. And we forced that to happen, and it's been a long, difficult road. We've been very hated by the people here for a while, and some people like us now. I don't know, but it's been a difficult thing. My wife stopped doing it about 2 or 3 years ago. She still talks about it, but she won't do anything podcast or and any more research. And we've moved all the research information we have to a museum so that we don't have to deal with it the closet right there on a day-by-day basis. But I apologize so much for the loss of your son, because I really believe that was caused by the lies and the cover-up at Columbine, and every other school shooting since then.
Okay, well, those are bombshell accusations, and so let's go back. I'd like for you to share your story, if you wouldn't mind, with our audience. Share your connection, your very deeply personal, close connection to Columbine, but also to the two shooters, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, through your son, who has also written a book. And so can we go back and can we start from the beginning?
Sure, I'll be glad to. If you request it, we'll do it. I would be glad to help in any way I can. I hope people are listening and learning. I really do. In '97, we reported Eric Harris for death threats against my son and for his posts on the internet. He had a web page and was posting death threats against my son. We reported that to the police. We did it again in '98, where he had starting to build pipe bombs. We went to the police a number of times about the pipe bombs. The first time they lost our files, so we had to take the file number in with us to make the complaint. We talked to the detective. We talked to the bomb squad guys. They brought out a board, yay big, showing what pipe bombs looked like. And we were surprised because they're not what we thought they'd look like. They're crickets, which are little pipe bombs, and pipe bombs that are made from metal and from plastic. And we're shown those. And we filed a complaint, and they prepared a search warrant. Now, whether they actually initiated that search warrant and went and served it or not, we're not sure, because they have lied about so many things now that whatever Jefferson County releases is just suspect. Not one person from Jefferson County has told the truth in 26 years, 27 years, none of them. Not one.
When you say told the truth, you mean about your personal experience?
No, about what caused it, why they covered it up, how much they covered up, the lies they told.
Well, let's talk. Let's say your story, and let's talk about what because now you're saying that 2 years prior to the Columbine shooting, you
Right.
had engaged the police there.
Yes.
Because your son's life was threatened.
Yes.
And then Eric had a website on which he posted hateful messages, including wanting to kill everyone,
Yes.
including Brooks, your son. That was the actual person that he
Yes.
named
Naming him directly.
website.
Yes. Naming him directly. So we took that to the police. The police, we're not sure exactly what, I shouldn't say police, the sheriff's department. I'm not sure exactly what happened, whether they dropped the ball or whether they rolled it into the one complaint. They had broken into a van. And when they sentenced them for that was when we were making the complaint on the death threats. And we think they might have rolled it into one complaint. The sheriff sort of admitted so in a town hall meeting that was televised, where he called it double secret probation, which had been essentially rolling uh, the first van break-in incident into ours and putting them together and not punishing them for it. It's something from Animal House, I think, or of John Belushi movie, Double Secret
But
Probation.
then you also had other complaints. I believe that Eric Harris, who was really the mastermind of the Columbine shooting, he had at one point hidden behind a bush and thrown a rock in a snowball at Brooks's windshield. He'd broken that. And then I think that he did, and you went to the police, and then he did that again with your your wife Judy's car, correct?
Yes, well, he broke. I'm sorry. Going back to the beginning is very sad, and that's what I should do. I will do that. He we had problems with Eric for a long time. He got mad at Brooks because Brooks was driving him to school. Brooks was a little older, but in that grade, and Brooks just could not get up in the morning. He was a typical teenager, wouldn't wake up till 10 maybe. Um, so then that didn't work. School started early, so he failed to pick Eric up, and Eric got angry about that and was mad at Brooks. And Eric was an injustice collector. We asked Brooks. We said, "Well, can he get over this?" I offered to give Eric a ride to school, and we talked to him, and Brooks said, "No, that's not Eric. Eric doesn't work that way." At the same time, Brooks is very good friends, and we were good friends with the Klebold's. Um, he was over at our house hundreds of times, playing video games and with the kids, and his older brother Byron, and my two kids were stacked in age, so it was just perfect. One was younger, one was older, but the younger ones were more mature, the older ones were not. It was kind of funny. So they got together. They were sort of friends. We know that family very well. We had been to both their houses, the new one and the old one, and we were very surprised that
You
Dylan was
supported
involved.
Sue during the aftermath of
Oh
the
my gosh, yes,
who is Dylan Klebold's mom.
yeah, Sue Klebold is Dylan Klebold's mom, and my wife actually went down. Hang on, that's your alarm. That your meeting's starting.
Uh,
Sorry,
that's okay. I got the time wrong. Whoops.
that's right. We went down. Judy went down on the day of Columbine to support Sue at her house because we knew they didn't have any relatives here, and Judy just wanted to help, so she was with them when she actually told them that it was Dylan through a phone call with my son and I. So we were good friends with them. We were at their house talking about Dylan afterwards for months. We'd go on walks in their beautiful neighborhood and try to figure this out. And that's what Judy and I did for a long time, trying to understand Dylan. Eric was angry and on Luvox, which is an SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which is a drug that is contraindicated for boys under 18 years old, anyone under 18. And so that was misprescribed. That may have been a part of this, but Eric was also bullied and tormented at school, along with Dylan, along with almost everyone at that school. It was a very toxic, mean high school.
Okay, now that is not what the narrative is,
No,
right?
the narrative is hilarious. It's that it's
The
a
narrative
perfect
is
school.
that they are the trench coat mafia. I think probably everybody listening has heard of that if they're of a
Right.
certain age, and that they are the bullies. I mean, clearly they are the bullies. They're the ones that perpetrated one of the worst school shootings in our nation's history.
Yeah. Well, Eric was 5'7", 120 pounds maybe, and Dylan was 6'3" and 160 pounds. They were both so skinny. They couldn't fight. They were humiliated at school in ways that are beyond belief. If well, I'll tell you one of them. They were sitting at their table in the Commons, which is the cafeteria, and the group of jocks, and not all jocks are bullies, but some jocks are bullies, was throwing Tampexes at them soaked in ketchup and got their clothes all stained with ketchup. And this is a story that's been denied, but of course it happened. And even Sue Klebold says it happened. We know that it happened. And
You know
So
that it happened? How do you know that it happened?
we've been told by people who participated and who were there.
Okay.
So I didn't see it, of course. And so humiliated them in front of all the other children at school. And that's the difference is bullying is one thing. You can aggressively push somebody to do something, be a bully, make them do something they don't because you're bigger and stronger. And almost everyone was bigger and stronger than Eric and Dylan. Um, but when you humiliate them, you create anger, you create hatred. And what this school did, this toxic school, has made them want revenge against the bullies. And then that continued for so many years, for 4 years. They even said this when they went into the library and started shooting, that this is for the 4 years of hell you have put us through.
Wow.
So their motives are very clear, along with things they've written. Dylan wrote this unbelievably violent report for school, or it wasn't a report, it was a made up story for his English class where he killed jocks and preps. And he was 6'4" and 240 pounds and a tough guy, and obviously expressing what he really wanted to be instead of being bullied by all these teenagers. So,
Did he turn that in, Randy?
oh, yes, he got an A minus because of his language. And
Uh, you know that resonates with me because Adam Lanza wrote something similar when he was in fifth grade at Sandy Hook Elementary School. He wrote something called The Book of Granny is the title, and it was about a witch that came to the school that brought a broomstick that opened into a semi-automatic weapon and murdered children. That was taken from him, and so known, but there was no consequences. I mean, and by consequences, I mean help given at that time.
right.
Yeah. So,
And same with Dylan and Eric. Both had violent things. They did this Hitman for Hire video that they produced in school using the school equipment that the school teacher saw. And it was around hiring them, Eric and Dylan, to go and shoot and punish the bullies who bullied you. Um, so that's a common. People have seen that. It's on the internet. Hitman for Hire is what it's called. And um, but it wasn't just them. There was so much fear at this school, subtle fear. One of the FBI agent's son made a video about blowing up the school the year before. And he was one of the investigative officers and didn't recuse himself from being involved. And you haven't heard about that, have you? The video where he blows up the school at the end, the FBI agent's son. That's how bad this was. So many kids were bullied and tormented and humiliated, and nothing was done because they wanted to win the football games. Sports mattered more than anything. The principal didn't do anything, the administrators didn't do anything. A couple of teachers spoke up and tried to do something, but they weren't listened to. And Eric and Dylan tried to stand up too. So did we. Other people spoke up, and nothing was done. So when you have no redress, no form of redress, then you become angry and you want revenge. And that's what Columbine created. And Columbine gave other bullied children and humiliated children the message that this is how they can get revenge. It's just the wrong lesson. It's violence, but this gets more complicated. That's our society too. That's what John Wick is. That's what Death Wish is revenge and violence. And that's our society. We teach that. We don't teach Martin Luther King or Gandhi. We teach violence as a response. And
as entertainment, by the
yeah,
way. And
exactly.
it always surprises me when Hollywood in general comes out against guns.
Yeah.
And then in every single movie, you have guns. Even in the promotional material, you have guns. You have guns when
Yes.
you don't really need guns and violence to support the narrative of the movie. It is overwhelming, and it's overwhelmingly just kind of losing themselves in
Yes.
also, being a part of the problem.
Well, that's John Wick. You watch any of the 3 or 4 movies in a row. He kills 60, 70 people. The first time it was because the guy stole his car. I mean, you got to be kidding me. And then I think killed his dog or something. That's a reason to kill 65 people. That's what the movie's about, and that's popular and well known.
Yeah,
So,
it's actually on Netflix, one of the top, actually John Wick 1, 2, and 3. I know that because it was the most popular. They have the top 10. All three of those were the top 10. And all three of those movies are movies that I will not watch because I have never liked to watch violence and never understood the appeal of that.
well, and other things too. Video games. I watched one video game being played and wrote down, uh, transcribed what the guy said, and it was just so violent. It's unbelievable. Now, those are escape. That's not reality, but it's an example. And that the truth is that Columbine is an example of reality where they do this. They use weapons and bombs to get revenge. Now, everyone says it's a failed bombing. Of course it is. Their bombs didn't work right. Good thing. Even the pipe bombs were built with the wrong uh, gunpowder. They used fireworks instead of serious powder. Uh, and The pipe bombs didn't ignite because they didn't ever test those. Um, they opened the valve on one and lit it on fire, and it still wouldn't explode. But propane tanks are very difficult to get to explode. It's much harder than people think.
Probably
Um,
by design.
um, no, it's just the nature of the, that's very dangerous. It's the nature of propane. So, and they also turned the gas on in the school, tried to blow up the school, and that was luckily turned off. So, um, but that was, Columbine is just a tragedy of errors too. They left, as an example, Mr. Sanders, the shooting happened at 11:20. Mr. Sanders was shot around 11:40, something like that. Um, and They left him in the school to die. Uh, that's the last one of the last rooms they went to. Was he was on the floor next to the science room in a separate room, uh, and bled to death. And
I
that
think
was,
the kids even used his blood to write on the windows. Something that
no,
would help
that
us.
wasn't in his blood, but that was a, I haven't heard that they used a magic marker. I've seen the,
Okay, okay, magic
um,
marker.
but that was over 3.5 hours. He laid on the floor in the science room and next to the science room. Um, 3.5 hours to rescue him. That's why he died. You have a window to rescue people, 45 minutes maybe, and they failed that. But they left children in the library for that long too. They escaped by themselves, and some of them. One of the girls, Lisa Kreutz, was putting her finger in the blood that was pooling around her, which was her blood, and going, well, how much of this can I lose before I die? And she got out. And the police did not enter. The police entered. The lies of Columbine begin there too. The police entered the lower level of the school in the cafeteria to rescue a Denver policeman's son who was in the cafeteria, and then left the children in the library, the floor above them, slightly above them, one room over, um, uh, and ignored them for 3.5 hours. But they rescued this Denver policeman's son. And you don't read these things in the press. This is the truth about what happened. So just
I
so
mean, is
you
this
know,
in a report somewhere?
oh, all
Or is
this
this
is
just from eyewitness that you've spoken to?
eyewitnesses and a report both. Now I've been researching this for over 20 years, as you know. I've I've seen videotapes privately from Channel 4 that I was allowed to go through and watch by myself, hand rewind and fast forward. I've seen the basement tapes. I've read the
Can you talk about the basement tapes, Randy?
Sure, I've read the 45,000 release pages. We've listened to all the 911 tapes and transcribed them. Um, Judy listened to half, and I listened to the other half. And she
Wow.
found is that the sheriff's guy's statements, meaning that someone at the sheriff's department had protected these kids. Um, we found that the bullets in the school fired by the police. I'm the only person, actually, so far, um, who has reviewed the ballistics information. It took 6 months until 2:30 in the morning every day, um, and a lot of Red Bull, believe me, to analyze those, because you had to only the information I had could do this. I had the maps with the evidence numbers on them, and the CBI and the Jeffco reports, ballistics reports, that were different numbers. So you had to find this one and this one and there. It was complicated, um, and that showed the police fired 187 rounds into the school after Eric and Dylan were dead. they just were firing blindly into the school, shooting into the library where the children were killed. 5 or 6 different policemen shot into the library, including Gardner from outside, um, shooting into the main west door of the school that traveled all the way through the school and buried themselves in the east door. That's how far their bullets went. So I've,
I want to just
yeah,
pause right here to
yes,
remind the audience that your decades of research is deeply personal. It is because your two boys were in the school at on that day, and it's because Brooks was targeted by Eric Harris
yeah,
as somebody that he wanted to kill, and
yeah,
this was 2 years prior. And so,
right,
your journey started years before the Columbine shooting. I just
right,
bring everybody back to that. And so you have kind of inside information based on your own experience and interaction with the police prior to Columbine. And then, of course, you're watching information come out that you know is not true. And
yes,
I just want to add too that this resonates with me personally because our final report, the investigation of our school shooting, I hate to say our, but the Sandy Hook school shooting actually found that there was no sign of bullying. And in fact, I wouldn't have known really, if that was true or not, except that I had two individuals a few years later. One was filming me for an award that I had won after following me for 2 days. He said to me, I wasn't going to tell you this, but I, I went to school with Adam Lanza and I saw him be bullied and I
yes,
felt so bad about it. And I know personally, like I witnessed bullying in my middle school. And it stayed with me because I was a bystander. I chuckled uncomfortably along with the other bystanders. I did nothing to intervene. And that bothers me to this day. I remember that time intimately. And so I know that stays with you. And
yes,
actually this young man that was telling me this credibility. Another time I was at Quinnipiac University speaking to up and coming educators. And during the middle of my talk, one young man stood up and said, I went to school with Adam Lanza and I watched him be bullied, not only by students. And he said, that's why I'm becoming an educator because I want to do something about that. I want to be part of the solution. And
I
so,
like that guy. That's
you
nice.
know, I believe that actually happens, but that's directly opposed to what our report said. And so when I'm reading your book, Randy, and I'm hearing that there was no sign of bullying at Columbine, it kind of resonated with me because what why would why and it also bothered me about our report because I said and I spoke to the superintendent at the time and I said if it's not accurate,
Yes,
then how is this going to help future
precise.
schools learn how to keep this from happening? This is preventable,
This is,
and there are mistakes that were made and
yes,
are mistakes that are laid out in our report as well. But if we're not 100% truthful about what happened, then how are we going to be able to fix this? And then for me to hear from you, and you have tremendous credibility to me, Randy. You are the parent of of two children that were involved or at present in the school when the shooting happened. You have a reason for being involved and for doing this research. You had engaged the police 2 years prior, and so And I have talked with you at this point for many hours, and you have tremendous credibility to me, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this. And there is, there is this thing where I have been searching myself for the truth of what actually happens, because we know that these boys are not born mass murderers. This is what I
Right.
thought after Sandy Hook. Like, if we don't have a motive, which
Right.
we don't have from Sandy Hook, if we don't have a motive or a reason why they're doing this, then how can we solve it? And so that's why I literally said, okay, all right, the motive was pain in the Sandy Hook elementary school tragedy. It always is. So how do we address the pain?
Yes.
That is the foundation
Yes.
and basis of the entire Choose Love movement.
Yes.
And
Excellent.
yeah, and so it turns out, and I believe it is, I believe that hurt people, and that it's the motive for all of this. But also, as you said, when we understand that the motive, and there is a motive,
Yes.
is revenge,
Yes.
that changes everything,
It
because
does.
now we have a motive. We know why kids do these heinous things. It's called revenge. And I'll call out my friend James Kimmel Jr., who wrote the book, The Science of Revenge. We
Mm.
know how to fix it as well. So we have all this material, which is really exciting, but we do have to get to the truth. And so
Right.
you have evidence that, and I would like for you to talk about the basement tapes, that both Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, who in our minds and in my mind for the last 20 years, I believed were the ultimate bullies, just like Adam Lanza. But in fact, they were actually bullied themselves.
Yes.
And so can you explain more about that?
Sure. It's where to start. Holy mackerel.
Well, you want to start with the basement tapes that were
That's that
supposed.
I've seen those, and we can talk about those,
Okay.
and evidence. I've seen so much, it's kind of crazy, and we've talked to so many people about this.
Okay.
The bullying was denied in the beginning by the school. This is a perfect school. There were no drugs, there were no bullies. Well, they found drugs on April 20th after the shooting, and the 21st when they're going through the lockers, but it's an illegal search. They can't do anything about it, so they let them go. It's no big deal. They had bigger problems, but they denied bullying completely. There was no bullying. It's never been reported. This is a perfect school. The principal still says that occasionally. I've challenged him on that a number of times, once at the baloney movie they made about Columbine, We Are Columbine or something, and said, well, how can you say there's no bullying? Have you never heard of the Regina Herder report? Well, that's a report done by the Attorney General. I'm sorry, the Attorney General didn't do that. This was the Governor's Commission on Columbine, and Mr. Ritter commissioned that with Regina Herder to do that. He hired one of his detectives to go find out if there was bullying. And at the
And
time, you could not talk about bullying. It was avoided completely. It was a perfect school. They're not the problem. They're just crazy. Crazy's easy. We can dismiss this and forget about it if they're crazy. Let's do that. That's perfect. That's what everyone said other than us. So we talked to Regina Herder and set her up with 13 to 15 people we knew that were bullied. And then she researched it on her own too, along with her assistant. And they put out a 7-page report saying that Columbine was, of course, bullies, and that it was never redressed, and there were problems. This is an official report at the for the Governor's Commission on Columbine, the Regina Herder Huerter report, and that's just the beginning. When you read, I almost looked over at the closet where the books used to be. When you read the statements taken by the police of all the students, you have to remember that the police were keeping things quiet, but so many people mentioned bullying and that they were teased and they were made fun of, that bottles were thrown at them from cars driving by, that they were knocked down in the hallway, that they were called faggots and called all kinds of names. And neither of them were gay, by the way. This was just their way of making fun of them. And they can't defend themselves. They're not strong compared to these kids. The the biggest bully at the school, I won't name his name because I don't want to get sued about it, but um, is a kid that is so big, and I'm 6'3", 240. He could kill me in 30 seconds. He is that strong and that big good a fighter. And most people aren't trained fighters. He was. So he's been arrested a couple of times since then. Um, but nothing was done. The school saw it and didn't do anything. People would complain and nothing was done. And this is fascinating because
Now,
I
you
think,
said you complained at one
oh
point.
yes, oh yes. And we
You
met
complained to, who did you complain to at the school? And what
uh,
did you complain about? Just curious.
to the principal and to the deans, and
Okay.
the dean would say, well, let's have that guy meet with your son and we'll get this worked out. Oh, that's great. Let's tell the bully that his parents are going to stand up for him so that he can pick on him some more. That's a
Was
real
this Eric Harris?
no.
Okay.
Eric Harris was not a bully in the beginning. Eric
Okay.
Harris was and Dylan were the lowest on the totem pole at Columbine. They were picked on by everyone. Girls wouldn't talk to them because the bullies would make fun of the girls and actually accost the girls over, why are you talking to that loser? Um, they weren't part of the Trenchcoat Mafia. That's a group over here. They formed their own little terrorist group of two, is what they did. Building pipe bombs, building propane bombs, buying weapons, practicing shooting. Um, uh, Not very much, though. They weren't very good shots, but they still killed enough people point blank range. Um, but the bullying caused this. The humiliation caused this. If you're humiliated, um, Lonnie Athens says in his book Creation of Dangerous and Violent Criminals that humiliation creates violence. It's kind of a simple solution. Um, if you humiliate someone long enough, they're going to want to get revenge. They're going to want to get back at you. And that's what happened. After 4 years, the two lowest on the totem pole, most bullied kids, well, not maybe not most bullied because a Jewish kid was bullied a lot too, um, uh, at Columbine, uh, struck back and fought back against. And at that point, they didn't just hate the bullies. They hated the principal for not doing anything. They hated the teachers for not doing anything. If you can imagine
Not
this
protecting them.
being soaked with tampons covered with ketchup happened in the school cafeteria in front of other children at the school, in front of teachers on their videotapes, and nothing was done
And then they had to wear those clothes for the
the
rest
rest
of
of the
the day.
day. And one of them went home that day, didn't mention it to his mom. His mom asked why the red stains, and um, this is Dylan. And he went to bed and cried himself to sleep. What does that tell you about that? What that does to a teenager's psyche? You can't humiliate a child that much and expect them to not do anything. Now,
Well, let me add
of course,
2000,
some will commit suicide. Some will just
right.
become goth. They paint their eyes and they become different, and some will leave school. But
Well, suicidal ideation can
right,
turn into homicidal
exactly,
homicide. And
sure,
in 2004, the Secret Service found that the basis of school shootings, the reason for school shootings was violent bullying and humiliation. That was in 2004. And
wow,
I'm wondering, why haven't we focused on that? We
right,
we focus on the attack end of the
hmm.
pathway to violence. We focus on hardening schools and
Yes,
where the door locks are. We change them after Sandy Hook from I think they were in outside the classroom to inside the classroom. Like,
right.
focus on these things that don't get at the root cause of school
Um,
shootings.
you
They're important, unfortunately, because we've allowed it to get to this point, but they don't address the root cause. And I agree with this Secret Service that came out in 2004 and said that violent bullying and humiliation are the cause of school shootings. And
yes.
I think we should return to that and really focus on that, except that maybe it's just not that easy because the vast majority of anti-bullying programs that are out there are not effective.
Um, yes, and this is one reason I'm doing this podcast. It's wonderful that you know this much and that you've learned this. This is amazing. You are so different from most people. It's fascinating. Uh, People think they're crazy. They want to take their guns away and they want to harden the schools, fortify the schools. None of those work. If you deal with something At Arapahoe High School, Carl took a shotgun in to get the debate coach, and he shot Claire as he walked into the school and killed her. And then he killed himself. What good does hardening the schools do if that is so easy to do? You have so many doors. It's so easy to enter a school. You can enter them with your gun in a guitar case like the one shooter did.
Well, I was just talking to a teacher yesterday, and she said that actually was it a parent? No, it was a teacher. And she said she buzzed herself in and the door closed. And then she saw the front office buzz in a Grubhub driver just without, Grubhub. And she said she went back and she said, can we put a table outside? And they just leave the bag on the outside on the table, and then we can come out and get our food. You don't have to buzz them in. I mean, these are just little examples of how focusing on the attack and hardening schools are we know. I mean, this continues to happen, which just boggles my mind because it doesn't have to, because we can learn from our mistakes if we're honest about them, and we can keep our kids safe.
Absolutely. And the way to do that is to address the problem before the child has a gun going to the school. Mm-hmm. You have to stop them ahead of time. And the way you do that is you give them justice. You take away their reason for anger. You end the bullying and humiliation at the school. If anyone had stood up, any one of these teachers or the principal had stood up for Eric and Dylan during this process, this wouldn't have happened. They'd be disarmed. Their anger would be ended, or at least mitigated, and they wouldn't have done this shooting. But to have it unredressed for 4 years, they just were angry, and that was it. And that's with most school shootings. As to hardening the schools, the Capitol in Colorado has serious security. They have armed guards with a metal detector as you enter. And somebody tried to kill the governor there by shooting both guards and walking through the metal detector. Well, what good does hardening the Capitol do if that's how much easy it is to access it? You cannot give that level of hardening a school or hardening a target to any school. It's not possible. You need to have 3 SWAT people on site with rifles at all time, and that's not happening.
Hey there, listeners. Are you feeling the weight of the world? Well, you're not alone. The U.S. Surgeon General says nearly 50% of parents are overwhelmed by stress. And guess what? It's affecting us all. Just last year, we heard about an epidemic of loneliness hitting half our population, especially young adults. But there's hope. I'm Scarlett Lewis, founder of the Choose Love movement. We're dedicated to your safety, health, and well-being with proactive mental health strategies. Imagine a life where stress and loneliness are replaced by joy and connection. We've already reached millions with essential life skills to prevent violence, substance abuse, and mental illness. Want to join this life-changing movement? It's easy. Visit chooselovemovement.org today. Become a member, spread the word, and access our free resources. Together, we can create a loving, supportive community. Remember, all the nurturing, healing love you give comes back to you tenfold. Thank you for choosing love.
I choose love. I choose love.
Yeah, and you said something earlier, Randy, that was really interesting. You called Eric Harris
an injustice collector.
An injustice collector. That you know what? Here's the thing. That's what our brains are. Just normally, we're injustice collectors if we don't have skills, tools, and awarenesses to realize that we're doing that.
Yes.
And then the ability to overcome our brain's natural propensity to hold on to painful memories. And there is forgiveness, what James Kimmel Jr. talks about in The Science of Revenge, which I think is one of the most groundbreaking books to come out in certainly my lifetime, but maybe ever, because he talks about the root cause of all conflict, all school shootings, all wars, and it's revenge. And
Oh,
he also,
yes,
yes, and then he
yes.
also talks about,
I haven't read this book. That sounds great.
it's amazing. And he also talks about what the solution is, and
Is
it is teaching kids forgiveness, teaching kids and adults forgiveness, because forgiveness stops the pain in the brain. It stops the cycle of revenge. And he talks about revenge as being the deadliest addiction, because revenge means taking pleasure in someone else's pain. Now, here's the thing, we all do it. We all have thoughts of revenge because it's our body's natural way to find relief from being hurt. And so we just need to understand this, and we need to provide a solution to, we can stop it before it happens, before those thoughts of revenge happen, by being able to pause in the moment and thoughtfully respond with our prefrontal cortex instead of our fear center. But then if it hardens into a grievance, now remember, grievance is the start of the pathway to violence. That is when something in the past that has bothered us continues to bother us. And that is where the addiction cycle of revenge begins, because we get dopamine when we envision somebody else's pain, and you know, we that can escalate into action. And this is exactly what we see at Columbine. It's exactly what we see at Sandy Hook, and we can talk about those too, with lived experience. And so this is really exciting, because we know that we can stop this with forgiveness. And those of you listening may say, oh my God, that is too simple. But let me tell you something, simple isn't always easy, and you have to teach it. And you can, it's a teachable skill. You can learn it. And I have, and I've got to tell you that it's life changing and transforming. It allows you to move forward with your personal power intact, not continuously victimizing yourself as these shooters do. That results in this revenge loop, and sometimes violence.
now I've talked to Arun Gandhi, who's Gandhi's grandson, a number of times, and he teaches what you teach, and he's very wise and very smart, wonderful man, uh, Arun Gandhi. And he gave a speech at Columbine about that, along with some at a local church. I don't necessarily understand that. You're expecting a kid. I argued with him about this too. You're expecting a kid who's been bullied and tormented and humiliated to forgive. So I've been bullied and humiliated, and I need to forgive the bully when there's no change in behavior and nothing is done about it. That's a problem with me. I don't think you need to get revenge, but I think that person needs to treat me with respect. And they need, if everyone treated everyone with respect and a reasonable level of sophistication, civilization, civilized behavior,
Yes.
then I think that it would be okay. You've apologized. You're going to treat me with respect now. I can forgive you for what you've done and forget about it. But if you continue to do that, forgiveness is impossible. It's
Yes,
something,
true.
the pain is something that doesn't go away. So
Right.
that's what I have a problem with. That is that it isn't asking Eric and Dylan to forgive the bullies. The bullies need to stop their behavior. The school needs to stop that behavior.
That's
And
true. But let's
people,
think
yeah,
about an entire school
right.
that learns, and this is what we teach in Choose Love, and it's a free program, by the way, because I know that it would have saved my son's life. Let's talk about an entire school that learns how to have the courage to face the difficulty. So I'm saying the research says about 15% of kids are bullied, 15% of kids are the bullies. that leads 70% of
Yes.
kids that can be part of the solution, that can have the courage, which I did not have in middle school, by the way. I knew what was happening was wrong, but I wanted to be liked. I wanted to fit in. I didn't value myself enough to stand up for somebody that is being bullied. So it's teaching courage. It's teaching being grateful
Yes.
for what you have,
You're
which
describing
creates resilience.
Columbine
It's
too.
teaching forgiveness that everybody understands, and it's teaching compassion, the understanding that hurt people hurt people. So I'll tell you what, that can deflate the bullies, because if you understand that that person is doing what they do out of hurt and pain, and most likely because they were bullied too, it gives you a different understanding, the entire school, and those kids will be treated differently. And so even if there's no outside help from teachers or those in power at the school, you are creating a student body that can manage this problem on their own.
This may be a great answer, because you're not going to get help from the administrators or the principal or many of the teachers.
Well, I'm saying if
It's
you
difficult.
don't,
You need to have the kids do it.
it sounds like, it didn't happen at Columbine. I'm not sure how much it happened at Sandy Hook, but what I am saying is that in this circumstance, you have educators that are teaching this. So they're either learning or practicing and reinforcing right alongside the students. You've got administration that has okayed this being taught, so they have some understanding of it. So you're really all on the same page with this understanding, and it is above and beyond what is being taught in schools. It's why I'm doing this, because I saw that there was a desperate need.
This is good idea. I like this. The problem I see is, because I have fought, and I'm still fighting Columbine High School, the sheriff's department, the school district. This school board is horrible. They don't listen to parents. They have a 3-minute window you can speak to them, and then they never respond. It's a black hole of complaints, and it has been forever. So, if the administration would support a program like this, I think this could make a big difference. But with FERPA laws, where everything is at FERPA laws, I believe, uh, everything that happens at the school, and like right now in Jefferson County, we have 23 incidents of teachers, and the last one's a janitor who has sexually molested children in Jefferson County, 20 in the last year. That's a lot. Yeah, and you
I
can't
don't know
find
if that's a
anything.
lot. I don't know. I don't know how that compares around the country. I hope it's a lot.
I hope so. But that's what's been reported. There's one lady here fighting that, with telling about it, but the school board won't address it, won't do anything. They don't even do background checks on these people. Which is maybe why it happens. So very disturbing things, and I see them resisting every attempt at change instead of trying to make a change and do something better. It's so easy to say they were crazy. It's so easy to say take away the guns. None of that addresses the real problem. And school security here is no different than it was 15, 25 years ago. There's no change. You can walk in any school, any door at the school.
You mean they don't have locks on the doors?
Oh, sure, but what good do those do?
Yeah. Well, we know that those may inhibit somewhat, but they don't stop for
Well,
sure.
some of the new methods, but those haven't been instituted here.
Yeah.
The new thing that you put the block behind the door, it keeps it secured. Yeah. So I don't know. Just as an outsider, not involved in schools, your program is a wonderful idea, and is helping children, absolutely. And will that take away the hatred and anger from the two kids that are bullied the most? Possibly. And just that little change might be enough to stop them from killing people, and stop
Yes.
them from keeping that hatred in their heart. Um,
It's a long process, by
yes.
the way, of pain that builds upon itself, that turns
Yeah.
into hatred, that turns into revenge.
Yes.
And it takes a lot for a child to actually come to the point where they want to kill somebody. There's so much time, in other words,
Yes.
from when they have that initial pain to when they actually commit the crime. There are people that know that they know the pain, they see the pain. The kids talk about it with their friends. They
Yes.
try to report it. They
Yes.
write about it. I
Yes.
mean, I don't know if there's ever been a time when it hasn't been known. In fact, a lot of times people say, "Oh, I knew that
Yes.
that he was going to do that." In the case of Nicholas Cruz at Parkland, there were 3 calls to the FBI that went unanswered, which resulted in a huge $100 million plus settlement for those families because the FBI simply didn't return calls, and Nicholas had already been on their radar. So there's lots of mistakes that were made, and I think rather than searching for new laws and everything, I think we really need to look at what we already know. I think we need to have the courage to accept the truth,
Yes.
and it's not as radical as we think that it is, and we need to really hone down on fixing the root cause of why people kill each other, and that's pain. And let's start to really shift and adjust our focus. I've been saying this for 13 years, and I hope that this podcast kind of helps to solidify what I've been saying. And Randy, if you could like all your research, which is incredible, all and this started years before Columbine, all the things that you've learned. Our audience at Choose Love is a lot of educators, a lot of administrators and parents, and so they're looking for action oriented items that they can actually do to help make their kids safer. And so based on your experience, what would you say that those are?
Well, first, are we out of time? Is that the idea? Because you mentioned the basement tapes. I've seen the basement
Oh yeah,
tapes.
let's talk about that, and then we'll
Yeah,
wrap it up.
they're they're two juveniles, immature teenagers sitting, drinking liquor from a bottle, acting all tough, and
So
it's
these are Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold
yes,
actually in one of their basements, and they're
yes.
actually videotaping themselves. And is it the school's equipment, or
It
is it
might be the school's camera. Yeah,
okay, yeah, I was just curious.
it's some. I believe it was. A lot of the videos were done with school equipment, and they're just talking as just two braggart, stupid teenagers, how bad it is, what they want to do. They don't describe how they built bombs. They don't talk about their plans. They talk about just silly things that teenagers talk about. They're very immature teenagers, both of them. And that's one reason this happened is they were not mature. They didn't have the maturity to go, this is just high school. Who cares? Let's move on. Um, this was everything in their life to them. High school was everything. If I were to tell people how to stop these, um, I would say that every person who sees bullying needs to take a stand and stop it. To walk up to the kid bullying another kid and talk to them and then let them go on their way is not acceptable. You have to punish the bully. You have to talk to the bully and stop his behavior so that the bullied kid can see that someone is standing up for him and not be as afraid, because fear is a part of this. These kids are afraid.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
people don't talk about how afraid Eric and Dylan were. They were afraid of going to school. They were afraid of driving down the road in their cars sometimes because the bullies would follow them in their car. And they had a baseball bat with nails in it. They had knives. These were tough kids. And these are steroid induced angry bullies that are pursuing these two weak little kids until the weak little kids had had enough. And there's a process of that. Lonnie Athens starts it, and Paul Mones talks about it in his book When a Child Kills. And there's so much research done on it that is not talked about.
Mhm.
There really are ways to prevent this. This is caused by hypervigilance. If you bully a kid 2 or 3 times, they're angry, but after that, you don't even need to bully them. You just need to look at them with a bullying threat, and that's hypervigilance. And then everything they see after that becomes bullying that is uncontrolled, and it builds their anger, even if it's someone else being bullied. And then violentization occurs, and they get weapons and they get revenge. The way to stop this is not taking away guns; it's to take away their anger. And to do that, you have to defend them. You have to stand up for the bullied kids and not let it happen. And you need to punish the bully, and not both of them. You don't punish the bully and the bullied. Why would you punish the bullied kid? What did he do? He was standing there and got knocked down. So he needs to be defended. And that's not what's happening now. This is a zero tolerance policy half the time. Everyone gets punished and gets talked to and loses time in school if they get in a fight. Well, who caused the fight? Who's the bully? Who's the one physically superior bullying a weaker kid? And that needs to be addressed. And that kid needs to be shown that he can't be a bully like that, talked to and explained. That's humiliation at school is what needs to be stopped. And I think to do that, you have to have respect for everybody, which you do not have at Columbine, did not have at Columbine at all. Football mattered, nothing else mattered.
Yeah, I think that, changing the dynamic of power
Yes.
away from the bullying behavior. I don't actually like the term bully. Anybody who knows me, who's listening, knows that. I usually just say, I don't use the label. I say bullying behavior, but changing the understanding and the dynamic of power in the school. In other words, teaching everyone why bullying happens, what it means, what the person is feeling, cultivating some empathy. And then actually, my mom used to say when we got into conflicts or we made mistakes or something, she said, oh, what you could have said was, and then she would give us that. And it was a great teaching method. So, I think far too often, and the reason that anti-bullying programs don't work is because we're focused on what not to do. And we really need to be showing kids what to do, how to have healthy relationships, because in every situation, including Sandy Hook, and I'm talking about Adam Lanza, he, of course, would have preferred to have healthy relationships, to be able to manage his emotions, to be happy. He didn't know how. The only thing that he knew what to do, and the way that his brain was driving him literally through the cycle of revenge, the only way he found relief was off putting his pain onto other people. And so teaching that there is another way, teaching everyone. So now when you're in the halls and you see someone exhibiting bullying behavior, your first thought is, oh, that person's in pain. I wonder what's going on with him. And it is more compassion. You have the courage to speak up. You have the courage to report it and to not put up with that behavior. And then everyone knows. So when you're the bully, you're not the cool guy. You're not the one with the power. You're the one that everyone knows now is in pain and needs help.
I like that.
That includes the teachers and the administration as well. They understand that. And then they deal with that person with the love and support that they need. I was told by, I did a podcast with Aaron Stark, and he has one of the most viral TED Talks ever. I was almost a school shooter. And I said, Aaron, based on your horrendous experience, what's the solution? And he said, giving love. And I said, oh my gosh, I get overwhelmed by thinking of the systems and processes that have to change. And he said, no, Scarlett, you're wrong. The solution is this: giving love to those we feel deserve it the least because they need it the most. And if you think about that, that resonated with me as truth. That includes the person with the bullying behavior and the kids that are bullied. They need to be seen. They need to be cared for. Everyone deserves respect. And, there is a way to incorporate that into your culture. Everyone has to be on board. But that's why Choose Love it's a universal language and universal skills and tools. It's the same skills and tools for elementary school kids as it is for educators, as we teach in prisons. And it's simple stuff. but simple isn't always easy, and you have to practice it every day. And every single day, life throws you a curveball. And so you got to take out your skills and tools and figure out how to use them in that circumstance. But it's so important. And I so appreciate you having the courage to come on the podcast for all the
Sure.
research that you've done. I know that you have carried, even you say in your book, a tremendous amount of guilt because you knew about the struggle that these two boys were having, and you just didn't feel, you weren't listened to, and there wasn't follow through. And so and I know that your son and your entire family has struggled because you have been looking for the truth and challenging narratives that is not always popular.
No.
And so I want to thank you for that.
Well, I wish it had helped your situation. I'm so sorry that with the lies and the problems of telling the truth about Columbine, it's allowed to continue, and you're one of the people that's hurt a lot. So I'm very sorry.
Yeah, I want to release you though of the guilt. I mean, you've done far more than most, and I want to encourage everybody listening. There is a solution, and it's something that we can do. It's something that each one of us can do, and we can do, as schools and communities. So there is hope. I wake up every morning with more and more hope. And so, but we have to get serious about it. We have to take the matter into our own hands. We have to make sure that our kids are safe. And exactly what you said, Randy, I agree 100%. Everybody deserves respect. We have to make sure that the culture of our schools is kind and loving. And that is not just with a kindness week, that is with, lessons that are woven into the fabric of everything that a school does that perpetuate this understanding of personal responsibility, self-control, and that those are the skills and tools that we need for our own families, or when those kids grow up and have their families. Also what employers are looking for, their workforce skills. So, and there's the earlier you start them, the research shows the better that they actually do in life, with less mental illness, less substance abuse, less incarceration, more success in every aspect of their life. And so it's really important that we get the word out. Hey, everybody that's listening, if you liked what you heard, I'm sure that there is somebody that you can forward this podcast to help get the word out. We really appreciate your love and support. And Randy, we appreciate you, and we're going to be hearing more from you.
Good. One last comment. The main lesson of all this is for everyone to know that any solution that includes violence is incorrect. That you don't have the right to be violent, to create pain for other people. What you're going through is not worth the pain you will cause, and doesn't equal the pain you will cause the other people by being violent. So just don't be violent. Be mad, move to another state, change who you are, whatever. Just, you don't have a right to be violent.
Learn how to choose love over anger, hatred, resentment, revenge, which is all, as you alluded to, a mask for fear. So choosing love over fear. Everybody go out, model that, make those choices in every situation, circumstance, and interaction that you face every day. That will ripple out to make this a more peaceful, kind, and loving world. We are all part of the solution. And Randy, gosh, I thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you.
it so much.
Hey, oh, it's all part of us. We can all choose love. It'll lift you up if you let